Next, we're going to go into Q&A section. So I'm going to ask them to sit at the chair at the back. So give us 1 minute to set up the arrangement in here so the interns can sit here. So I'm going to invite Dr. Rishad to carry the Q&A process. And I'm going to be in the grounds with the mic. So if anyone want to ask a question, please raise your hands up and wait for me to come and give you the mic. And you can ask questions to the interns as well as to our client. Thank you. Dr. Rishad will handle on the stage.
So we're so thankful to have these very complex community wicked problems, right, to try to solve, and complex data sources to try to deal with that, and challenges for our interns. And so as you can see in the different projects, we had lots of challenges, and we end up with more questions than we started with. We would love to spend some more time digging into that, but the students have the next semester coming up and have to get ready for all of that. But we do welcome your questions if you have some, either for the interns or for our community partners.
So who wants to go first?
Yep, there's one up here.
Just a minute, please. Oh. This is a recorded event, so we would want you to speak on the mic.
I don't know which intern would like to address it, but what I'm wondering is, what did you find was personally your most challenging problem in the area that you worked with, and then what you learned from that challenge?
Okay, initially what I thought is the data science is more a sort of programming, and I'll be getting a problem and then I'll start coding onto it and get the solution of it. And then I thought that, yes, I'm a good programmer. I can do it in very fast time. I will take no time. But when actually I got into the data, I saw, wow, there are so many complexities into data cleaning. And I remember Dr. Richard telling me that 80% of the time you are going to clean the data to get the answers. And really it happened that it's not 80% of the time, I will tell 90% of the time. We ended up cleaning the data, removing the null values, trying to categorical variables to convert it and to make it ready for the modeling. And that's what the major crunch of the learning part is. And the programming it was complex, but yes, it is very less time than what I thought initially was.
For me, working on 2 projects, GTM and Starting Point. Starting Point definitely was not just data. We're talking about people. And it was, as I dig into more analysis, it was becoming more personal. And I had to not go into it, just analyze the data and then discuss with the team and Dr. Richard. So data, some projects are not just data. Some projects are really get to your emotional and personal. So that was interesting. Like Mitab said, it's not just data. It goes beyond that. Yep.
If you wouldn't mind if I could answer that question as well. For me, the people were easy. Going in, it was the data that was harder for me. I knew about statistics, but the first week, like asking, what is Python? You know, I started from the very beginning. And Dr. Richard had a saying throughout the program, you're drowning, but we're describing the water. So just trusting the process was a challenge that I learned from.
Other questions? Yeah.
Hi there. After going through the summer's process, has this inspired interest in perhaps taking coursework or graduate coursework in an area that you hadn't previously considered? And if so, what area would that be?
Okay, so I'm a psychology major. I have no data science experience before coming into here, but through this internship, I was like, whoa, this is cool. Like, data is so cool. I love the Tableau, and my partner Amitabh and Kevin were doing Python. I was like, I want to learn this because I feel like I can apply this to like my degree as being a psychology major. And yeah, that was for me. So data is really cool. Coming from a non-data perspective, I was like, my eyes were open. I was like, it's not just like boring people behind a computer like little robots, It's like really fun.
I loved the data, don't get me wrong, but I also really loved working with the nonprofits and working with people and I really felt like I was actually making an effort and making a change in the world, and that was really interesting to me. I think that's definitely something I want to continue doing, and it's not something that I considered. I was just considering workforce. I never considered nonprofit, but it's a really good feeling, so I think I'll definitely continue it.
Yes, one more thing which I would like to add, which Brianna already mentioned, is the visualization part. It's not just the data cleaning, it's not just the programming, it's not just the results, but it's how do we present it. And visualization contributes a lot towards that. And that's what I learned during this internship. When I started this internship, well, I was a good programmer, but I did not know how to present it properly. I did not know Tableau. I do remember Dr. Karthik asked me, do you know Tableau? I said no. But I took it up this challenge during this 12 weeks period. I learned Tableau, and we tried to prepare good visualization. And then we found it out that if we are not going to present it properly, the hard work is not going to contribute a lot. So the point is we have to take up the equally amount of effort in doing the analysis and that equal amount of time in making it visualize to the people. So that's going to give the payment for the hard work.
I'll answer. Oh, sorry. I'll answer on that question, the coursework question. So I'm a psychology major, and most recently I've decided to look into law enforcement as a future career. And while the data science doesn't, I guess, change my track as far as career goes, it does lead me to look for data science in everything I do. So with the example of law enforcement, the career of crime analyst, I've discovered that because of this internship, I would have never thought to look into a data-driven field within law enforcement had it not been for my experience with data science.
I was going to ask, seeing all of you coming from different backgrounds, and when I heard data science coming from all these different backgrounds and working together, what are the difficulties you have seen working together? What are the advantages you have seen? What did each one of you bring together to the data part of the equation?
Okay, so for me, I'm a computer scientist, so I haven't really been around the nonprofit sector and all the terminology that comes along with it. I'm sure it goes both ways, that they don't understand some of our jargon and terminology, and I for sure did not understand much of the terminology for mental health counseling or substance abuse. So I think it's very beneficial to have people from multiple realms like clinical mental health counseling and psychology, as well as computer science, because then we can collaborate and explain things to each other. And that's kind of one of the challenges I figured would be happening in this project, but it actually worked out very well in that everything was represented and we all covered our bases.
So with Feeding Northeast Florida, I partnered with Abhishek, and he is very data-driven. It's like his favorite thing in the world, whereas I come from an anthropology background. And we got really close, and we started bickering and enjoying each other, and I think it's been a great experience because we really found a way to communicate even though we're speaking basically 2 different languages. So I thought that was definitely something that I love about this internship.
So, so of course, I'd like to add to that. So working with I've worked with data in the past, but working with someone coming from a different background, Abigail really taught me how to present stuff that I've been working on, how to tell a good story with the data. She also helped me understand the impact I'm trying to impact we are making with the project, and how to basically go ahead with the project that would help our community partners the most.
So from our side, since I just had 2 of our interns talk, I'll jump in as well. For us as a nonprofit, as a food bank, it made us really have to take a good hard look at our own data and maybe how we could do better at describing it, describing what we want and what we need when we're getting an opportunity like this, what little things we could be doing that no one had really thought about before that would make it easier in the future to, for example, update our dashboard once we get new data in, how to communicate with people in the data science field about our needs and things like that. So I personally had never had an experience like that before, and I think that some other people in our organization probably would say the same, so that was really cool.
Just to add to that, that's what I was going to say. That was the main reason we went into this at Starting Point, is we needed a better way to tell our story. And when we apply for grants and when we apply for funding and when we're trying to speak to the people not only that we're trying to help, but the people who are helping us to help them, we want to let them know why this work that we do is so important. And that was really difficult for us in a lot of ways without this program. Was just how to better tell our story, how to better get that message across and show the impact that we truly are making in our community. So thank you for helping us do that.
Oh, this is very inspiring to see all of you working on a social good and using technology to help solve world problems. I follow the Data Science for Social Good in Chicago and Atlanta, and I'm really grateful that they have made their code published on the GitHub. So do you have any GitHub published where your code is published, or the organization who do not have access to resources can have a checklist or resources to solve problems when they don't have access to UNF?
I think it's better I take these questions of interns. So most of the data we are dealing with very specific, and it's owned by community partners, and we do a memorandum of understanding where they own the intellectual property of the data. And many of the analysis coding we write are very specific to them. So because of which we don't release anything to the public domain to give the protection for them.
Okay. I mean, I understand that people would be unwilling to share their data, but as far as the checklist or the steps which when these folks invested so much time to clean up the data, import it, and the tools which they use. If you have a checklist published, then there are so many social organizations who do not have resources or access to your resources or your intellect and leadership can replicate that practice or the results which you guys are.
Rena said, let's do that.
Yeah, that's a good solution.
And there's another for the folks who are present over here. If you want to involve, there's a really good organization called Data for Democracy. Please help out. They're really looking for mentors and folks like these folks to help them with their social good projects. Thank you.
Thank you. Who's next coming?
We participated last year. I unfortunately was out of town, so I couldn't do the big reveal, but I want to point out too, it was never mentioned, that the students are in touch with mentors from the community who come in and give their time freely, very highly advanced and qualified people from the community that come and help them. And that really wasn't mentioned, and we were grateful for that as well.
Yeah, that's right.
Thank you. Yeah, we mentioned at the beginning. So towards that, any of the mentors wants to share your perspectives, views?
Well, first of all, I want to congratulate all of you. I've seen you develop and mature over these last few weeks. And it's been just great seeing you work so hard, ask the right questions, and take the feedback in the right way. I think most of the times we get very defensive when we receive feedback. I never got that feeling from you. You were always upfront, you were always eager to learn, and always eager to do your best. I do want to ask you guys a question. However way you want to respond to it, when you were starting this project, think of that time when you just starting your project. What did you tell your family or friends that you were working on? And when you finished, or maybe about to say, what would you say now?
So when I was starting this project, I basically told all my friends that, so we had been working on data science problems in the class, like making no impact at all. So I just told my family and my friends, like, okay, I'm going to do something real, and all my professors as well. I told them I'm going to apply my knowledge and basically get something out of it. And at the end of the project, I remember actually I've also shown my parents the dashboard that we have developed. They don't understand much, but they are still like really excited about the work that we've done. And yeah.
So I, again, come from an anthropology perspective. So I told my family, I'm way out of my depth. I am working with data. I don't know how to work with data. This is going to be super hard, but I'm going to try it. And now I feel very proud and very confident in what I've done. And again, I showed them the dashboard. They were very happy with it. And I like that I can now describe the nonprofits I'm working with. I feel very professional, if you will. And I feel like I've made a real world impact, like you said.
You know, what I told is when it started, I just told my wife that, okay, I'm going to work on data science. It is a good internship opportunity, I got it. And, okay, programming stuff I'll be doing. But you know what I'm going to tell today? See, what I did is going to help somebody really make a change. So the work which I have contributed will take to a decision making for a community, for the social good. So that's what the impact which has happened in these 12 weeks. So it has changed from the start perception of that I'm going to do some programming or data science project to the end goal is it is going to benefit somebody. So that's what the change which has happened.
So as a professor, I have to see that this column is asking question, that column is asking question, the middle column questions are not coming from the middle column. So I have to put the middle column at the spot now.
So I have a question specifically for the third presenters, the Children's Services Council. I was just wondering, I'm a teacher, so I always have like teacher brain on. I just can't turn it off. The end point of everything was the kindergarten readiness. And I was just wondering, was it ever taken into consideration the kids who didn't go to pre-K or VPK or some area where they would get some exposure to school before jumping straight into kindergarten?
So yes, actually, in the school district data, there was both duration metrics and an indicator for whether or not a child received VPK. And I did do an analysis on the effect of VPK exposure on children performance, and it's not a surprise. If a child is exposed to VPK enrollment and for a long duration of time, they do leaps and bounds better than their non-enrolled peers. The main reason why it wasn't a focus in the analysis was because it wasn't really capable, we weren't really capable on our end of differentiating between VPK that was subsidized by CSC funding and that which wasn't. But we did look at it and we did see that there was a positive value add through that exposure.
Hello. So I know a bunch of you worked with like a bunch of mentors in the community and a lot of important people with Northeast Florida and all that kind of stuff. Was there ever a point where you you had one way your direction that your project was going, and you talked to a mentor and just basically immediately U-turned because they turned you down? Or would you like to speak on like one of those instances?
So I know with GTM, we were very lost for a very long time as to where we were going. We had a lot of solutions, and a lot of them didn't end up working, and it was really our mentors who told us that's not probably going to work. But when we started this internship, Dr. Mapathy and Dr. Richard did tell us, you're going to find 100 solutions and only one's going to work. So be prepared to fail over and over and over again. And that was difficult, but that was definitely, I'd say specifically with GTM, it definitely happened over and over again. But the mentors were always the ones that they always explained why that wasn't going to work. So we never felt like, why? We always knew why they were telling us to do that, and that helped us go in that direction.
I think for CSC, the situation was when we initially got the data, it was the magnitude, the scope, and the just the time duration of all the information recorded. It was overwhelming. So it wasn't so much a situation where we had an idea of analysis in place that was sort of, corrected, if you will, the trajectory. It was more, when we initially got that data, we couldn't really see the forest for the trees. And the mentors came and was like, no, you need to start here. And just having that base, that starting point on a data set so massive gave us a jumping off point for the rest of the analysis. So that was the key, the key takeaway that I felt.
And I'll kind of piggyback off of Abigail on GTM. So last week we had our final mentor meeting, and on Wednesday one of the faculty leads actually suggested a new idea for a way to analyze accuracy of the student data. So even just last night we were working on processing linear regressions, so changes are always happening, and honestly it's a great idea to have the faculty leads and the mentors because they bring so many ideas to the table that I never would have considered otherwise.
I'd like to chime in from our organization perspective. We were also kind of like, okay, so what will this result bring for us? But to us, and to me especially, it was a win-win situation no matter what. If we found out if our student data was accurate or not accurate, or reliable or not reliable, the win-win was, if it is reliable, yes, let's start using it for research. Let's put it into projects and citizen science projects. If it's not as accurate as we thought or hoped it would be, then let's change it so that it is. So going in the future, I'm very, very thankful to you all for all of your suggestions, all of your work. So we will take your suggestions and help with the quality analysis and quality control with collecting the data with our students, and we'll also, start video training. How can we make it easier so that that collection is more accurate? So I think it was a win-win no matter what.
Hi, I've been taking pictures of you all night. I have a question for the Center for Children Services, the last group. The focus seemed to be on kindergarten readiness, but what about first grade? Were you looking at data under the impression that if they were ready for kindergarten, they would for sure be ready for first grade?
So the main reason we had kindergarten as a focal point, kindergarten readiness as a focal point, was because that's actually one of CSC's 4 core goals. They want to make sure that children are born healthy, that they're safe from abuse and neglect, that there's quality after-school programming, and that children are ready for kindergarten. And so in our analysis, we didn't quite know how to address all 4 of those goals. And again, with the amount of data, trying to figure out how to make the variables and identify the variables that would address all 4 of those goals was quite difficult. But what we could identify were analyses that would do justice to two of those goals, namely the healthy birth outcomes and the child outcomes that focused on kindergarten readiness. So in terms of a long-term picture of, say, looking at what happens to those children as they move past kindergarten into first grade, second grade, et cetera, the longer picture, we did not have an opportunity to take that into consideration, although it is an important consideration to take eventually. It just didn't work out for this analysis.
I was going to say the same thing, that it's not one of our core goals. And also, I think Joseph mentioned earlier that we were looking at a cohort between a certain period of time. And so the most recent data point is actually fall of 2018. And so that was the kindergarten readiness assessment. So that was just a decision of where we're going to cut off and where we're going to end, because of course we could go on and on answering all sorts of questions and figuring out what correlates with what. So that was just our parameters, part of the parameters, and getting at one of our mission goals.
Who wants to go next? Right, let's then wrap the Q&A section.